Well, I just want to be the first to say that uh, taking a video with this ridiculous amount of hair, it's just, like, I'm not even sure how I look on video, but I guess it doesn't matter. But it's kind of weird. You ever look at yourself after you got a haircut and you haven't had a haircut in a long time and you're like, whoa, that's a sexy fuck. Well, it's the exact opposite of that in my case. Anyway, I don't get the opportunity to take too many videos, and I suppose that I should because I have a big fucking mouth, super opinionated, but I feel like I'm pretty well educated about things that I talk about. At least I try to be. Otherwise, you just look like an asshole, and then, you end up talking about crap in your garage like that turd Bo at the fifth column. I mean, do people even really know what the hell Bo of the fifth column even means? I mean, I don't think anybody really understands, but regardless, they should because I gotta stop dropping so many f bombs. But regardless, they should because understanding what a bow of the fifth column is uh, really has some pretty undermining um, features. I think. I guess I want to say. I mean, the guy's a total turd. I understand he's been doing this for a while, and he's like this activist type dude, and blah blah blah. All American. I kind of talk like this, and I kind of look like I grew up in the woods. Whatever. I look like I grew up in the woods or something. I don't know. Like an extra on the set of fucking Castaway with Tom Hanks. Like I'm his stunt double when I get blown up and I die in some scene or something. I look like fucking absolute rotten shit. But you know what? It's not the point. Anyway, I feel like I should be on here expressing what everybody else expresses. Their true feelings, I would imagine, and opinions on things that they observe around them. And lately, I'm sure we all probably feel very similarly about this. The things I see around me they're abhorrent, they're disgusting, this is the most divided I've ever seen. I mean, I'm 38 years old. I feel like I've been around long enough to see some stuff, pay attention to some things, and observe how the world, reacts to what's going on in the history of how it's reacted before. But I'm pretty sure this is the most divided I've ever seen society on a grand scale for so long, ever, over anything. You know, when you have these huge events that happen, I think people take for granted that there's something going on, and whether there was like a known precursor to the situation or not, there's a whole lot of things that lead up to these events, and I think people just take for granted that since they're just becoming um, acclimated to this knowledge, like they're just now getting that information that it just started happening. I think that type of thinking really detracts from our ability to be our naturally designed critical thinking selves. And it doesn't help that we have all of these influences, media influences, and all of these distractions. Distractions can be great, but we've got every available crutch in the world as individuals. Most people, and I'm not really including people from countries where they don't have the type of industry and forces of capitalism and economics that we do in places like Europe or the United States or Canada or Australia, you know, Asia, most places in Asia. You know, I'm talking about the fact that we can just basically let such important things like this division just kind of go to the wayside just because we feel like this is just happening, like this coronavirus bullshit. and these mandates for all these health orders coming from people that have no business telling anybody about their health. This stuff has not been a recent occurrence. I think the majority of us who understand any little bit about policy and economics and politics, the world over, I think we know that these things don't just pop up. But I feel like the overall resonating theme is that people see things like such as on a social media outlet like Facebook, and they kind of treat it like it just happened. Like this stuff's just now becoming a big deal. No, it's a big deal now because the pot's boiling over. And the issues that have been brought to our attention long before the pot boiled over, the fact that the water was getting hot, the fact that whatever food was in it, it's like, hey, you're going to check this shit or what? Because you're not going to be able to eat it soon and you're going to make a big fucking mess. We don't get to see these issues until the food's fucking bad and everything's a goddamn mess. We got to clean up the kitchen and start over. Right now, we got to clean up the kitchen and start over. What we started with was something that we were prepared to continue on and fulfill. We were starting with something that had great ideals, solid foundations. And what happened was we let notions of greed and authority completely pollute our ability to differentiate us as individuals from part of a faction or a group or whatever. Everybody has this ideal of where they want to fit in or where they feel they should fit in, and that's all part of your identity. But what we've done is we've completely taken ourselves away from the ideals of being an individual with our own ability to be autonomous and take care of ourselves. And not everybody can, and I get that because there are certain inclusions that literally make that impossible. And that's okay because there are things in this world that we have to help people like that. The bottom line is these aren't new issues. And the people who are around to help people that can't be autonomous, such as I just described, it's like they don't give a shit. Why? Because there's something better around the corner, and I have to work around that in order to get there. So let's just ignore it because what I want is over there, and this issue's right here. And this doesn't serve me as well as getting to what I want. So lending a hand, helping others, trying to dissolve things that divide us, like this completely, like this notion of racism. I don't want to get on this huge topic of racism, but I interact with a lot of people every day, and I know racism exists, but I don't believe racism is natural. I believe racism is something that we develop because of what I feel largely is due to preconceived notions of superiority based on really horrible lessons of history that we're being taught that may or may not be true. And honestly, by and large, I believe it has a lot to do with just being insecure. I don't need to really identify myself as anything, but I know what I am. I know my ethnicity. I know my cultural background. I know where I came from. I understand those things. What I feel is to a great degree in comparison to, what's out there in society. I feel like I have a good foothold on how I see myself in those arenas. When I encounter people who aren't like me, when I encounter people who look different, talk different, whatever, you get feelings of preconceived ideas of what we do to stereotype things because we need to classify things in order to make sense of stuff. That's what we do. We're humans. We're judgment machines. This sick ideal of judgment and racism and prejudice, those things become dangerous when you use our basic functions as human beings as weapons instead of tools. Judgment is a tool, not a weapon. And if you use judgment as a tool to help us understand, we don't have to use it as a whip or a sword or some type of offensive weapon to help us define the world around us and put people in places that they don't belong. You know, your stereotypical idea of racism, white versus black. It's just so much more than that. It's just a highly publicized, hugely historic issue. And right now, we're taking all of these things, we're throwing them into this big giant boiling pot called the year 2020, and we're using the biggest exploitive place possible to display it. And that's the United States. Everything's right there waiting for everybody to judge. And they're pitting ourselves against each other using ideals of racism and public health emergencies and bullshit fucking politics. You think it really fucking matters who's the goddamn president anyway? Like, the fucking coronavirus wasn't gonna happen regardless of who the hell took office. I mean, it matters who the president is, but these agendas that are forced upon us, they're gonna happen because they have nothing to do with the presidency. But these aren't new ideals. And we separate ourselves. And we become groups and factions instead of one proud nation. You know, and that doesn't mean to take away from the culture of anybody's individuality. It doesn't mean to take away from anybody's personal beliefs. But like I said, just because we see something on Facebook doesn't mean that it's just now happening. We've been dealing with this stuff for a long time, and if you bother to do the research to find out why these things are happening, you just keep tracing it back far enough to give you an idea that, oh, I understand why racism exists. I understand that racism is something that's implemented by politics and classism. You know, this idea of being superiority. I understand that racism is not a new thing, but it doesn't have to be a thing. I encounter people all the time of different creeds and ethnicities, and I don't really have an issue. There have been some times I've had interactions with people where I feel that racism was some part of that interaction. And I deal with those things myself, usually internally, and I try not to get things into a confrontation, although sometimes you need to express what's going on. Those things need to be handled right then and there. But that's usually because of something external, something that exemplifies that problem, this ideal of racism. All these mandates, all this political bullshit, this fucking Biden versus Trump. Okay, I just want to point this out real quick. The whole racism, black vote, white vote, BLM. Fuck BLM, by the way. That's the KKK for all I care. It's the same thing. It's a terrorist hate group instituted by really rich fucking white people. I value everybody's life just the same as the next. That stuff doesn't mean anything to me. But I sure as shit don't want some terrorist organization marching around creating more racism. But just so you guys know, Biden and Trump fucking white. So just on that alone, I don't fucking get it. But I just want to be some kind of voice to say that even though speaking out against things kind of puts you in a position to be an underdog, I realize that the stuff being brought to our attention in this big boiling bullshit pot of the year 2020, it's not new. It's all old shit. This virus crap, these stupid fucking mandates, which are all absolutely just blatantly unconstitutional and unenforceable. Like these fucking idiots. I'm not even going to get into it. But that, and then the politics, the voting thing, I mean, quit picking people apart and quit creating more division, and just, somebody doesn't agree with you, that's fine. Talk about it. Find out why. You can get down to a solution of a problem and find things that might enlighten people, or you might learn something in the process. But I absolutely cannot stand these divisional tactics, which are making us as people, this nation we live in, we're supposed to be the greatest nation. We stand together. We're nothing because we're completely divided by all of these things. It's all being thrown into the 2020 boiling pot of bullshit. We're just way better than that. And when you meet people who don't fit that image that I'm trying to describe, that's okay. Just kind of, you gotta kind of like bypass them and get to the people you know damn well share these types of thoughts. Because I think that if you keep finding people who are like-minded the way that I'm trying to describe, I think those people that you reluctantly, many times reluctantly, have to bypass, I think they're going to start turning around. I think a lot of those people are going to be like, self-reflective and maybe give it a thought and be like, something right is going on there. I need to reevaluate and maybe join that camp and stop being bypassed. I think the more we're able to promote those types of interactions with people, instead of giving them shit about a mask, that's like so. I have my very staunch and, for what I feel, are very righteous ideals of this whole mask thing and why it is the way it is. That's how I feel, but you're gonna find people that wear them, find people that don't. I don't shit on anybody for either. But the bottom line is, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't, that's your choice. It doesn't need to be a reason to divide us. It doesn't need to be a reason to kick someone out of a fucking store or shut their business down. Standing together, educating each other, knowing the rules that we're all being pitted against, and having all of these things brought up against us to regulate us. Knowing those rules is what's going to help us fight back against the people who are thrusting those things in our face. And we're going to find out, just like I have, and just like I'm sure a lot of you have, a lot of those people are wrong. And they're having to face that now. Anybody that feels like they need to comment on this, please do. Don't smash the like button. Just kind of just press it, because it's a fucking phone. You don't want to ruin it. That would be stupid. So like it if you like it. Comment. Ridicule is acceptable because I need it, because I don't make a lot of videos, so I like to see how people perceive this whole interaction. And we're at like 18 minutes, which is way too fucking long. And maybe one day I'll cut my hair. So let me know what you think. Criticize the shit out of me and give me some ideas on what you think I can do to make this better, other than not filming in a fucking garage like that butthole Bo from the fifth column. Thanks.